So now I'd like to introduce Brian Precious, who is an organiser for Greenleafs in North East London.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Brian Precious, I'm a member of the Green Party, as well as a trade unionist, as treasurer of Human Trades Council. Very recently joined the Green Party, but as I am a long-standing critic of the European Union over many years.
And why have you joined Greenleafs?
As I've joined Greenleafs because I want to be part of a growing as a European Union critical, anti-European Union as an organisation within what is itself seemingly an exploding political party itself, and I really think that we're in a very good position to articulate the democratic and I think the real authentic democratic opposition to the European Union.
Is it the democracy, the lack of democracy within the European Union, compared to the relatively transparent democracy that we have within the House of Commons and the House of Lords, that most concerns you?
That is one of the things, in fact operationally that is the chief thing. There's the democracy that we have in the member states of the European Union, fought for over many generations and centuries. It has a lot to recommend it. It has a lot of criticisms, but I believe that the European Union, the European Parliament, the MEPs get very, very little time to vote. I don't think they get anything like the kind of leeway and information and time and preparation that MPs just across here, just across the road, get to vote. So that is the basic operational democratic deficit of the European Union.
What do you think about the European Union Commission?
Well, I think the European Union Commission is an example of the lack of democracy, because I think he's not really accountable to the European Parliament. So these are the issues, to the European Parliament. It isn't as accountable to the European Parliament, for example, as the Cabinet here in Britain are accountable to our Parliament, and the European Commission is not the ultimate governing party of the EU anyway. That is the European Council, which is hardly accountable at all.
So, I noticed the Stop the War Coalition t-shirt. Do you buy the argument of our Prime Minister David Cameron that the European Union has preserved the peace here on the continent of Europe?
No, I don't. I think it is the most preposterous imaginable argument. Because if you just look just a little bit to the east of Europe, where there are two major arguments against the European Union, which are demonstrated by recent events in the Ukraine, which was little more than, it could be described as little more than a fascist putsch, in which an armed camp was set up in front of the parliament of that country, and the democratically elected president of the Ukraine, President Yanukovych, was forced to flee for his life. And this was something that was undertaken by the United States, by NATO, and with the involvement of the European Union. So the notion that the European Union has preserved the peace and stopped war in Europe has been shattered, as has the notion that well, you can't be against the European Union because you're lining up with the right and the far right. The European Union itself has lined up with the right and the far right in the Ukraine.
Tell me what you think the consequences would be if we were to vote to remain in the June referendum.
The consequence will be that we will get more and more directives from Brussels, similar to the one which privatised our railways against the will of the British people. So you can bet that the privatisation of our post office, which took place with possibly more than a nod and a wink from Brussels, there's more directives like that would follow from Brussels. The European Union is a business-dominated neoliberal institution, hence it is centralised, and democracy is not at its heart, and I mean democracy is not at its heart because of its neoliberalism, and we'll get more and more and more of that from Europe if we vote from the EU, if we vote to stay in the EU. It's one of the most fundamental things that I would say to anybody who is making their minds up prior to June 23rd is that the European Union will collapse. It will collapse. That is a hard prediction. It's just a matter of time, precisely because it is centralised, it is undemocratic, and thus it is unreformable. And if you look in Eastern Europe, particularly in the Ukraine, it is an engine of war. The European Union, as it has certainly developed, is an engine of chaos and war.
Tell me, a lot of people criticise those of us that are opposed to the European Union at this referendum of being little Englanders. What's your reaction to that?
I would say there is nothing more internationalist than being against the European Union. If we vote to leave the European Union, number one, we will still be in the Council of Europe, of which we've been members since 1949. We are a founding member of the Council of Europe. It is from the Council of Europe that we get the European Court of Human Rights, Convention of Human Rights, and our own Human Rights Act. So, number one, we'll still be in Europe. We won't be in a bid to turn Europe into a centralised neoliberal superstate, which the EU is. And also, not only will we come out of the European Union and still be in the Council of Europe, which has 47 members, not 28, but we only need to look even further afield with our internationalism and look at Latin America and compare and contrast the development of Latin America over the past 20 years with the development of the EU over the past 20 years, and it speaks for itself.
Are you looking forward to saying this at the forthcoming campaign?
Yes, I think I'm at various campaigns. I'd love to say this.